I'm going to talk about the question of the week. This week's question is, it said that you should strive without striving. What does that mean? So, anybody think about this? Strive without striving? You think about this? What do you think? You think about it all the time. Yeah, you love this question. You have an answer? Or do you have an idea? Come here.
So striving without striving is being the very best you can be and doing the very best you can do without being attached to the outcome, without having the outcome to be a certain way, and just being the best you can be.
Great.
That's my outcome. That's my answer.
Great. Sit down. Very good. You stole my answer. So on a level, that's what martial arts teaches us, and that's what Zen teaches us, is to, give your all, do your absolute best, and to strive without the attachment to the outcome, which is almost impossible. Impossible, completely impossible for most people. To be able to try really hard and not have to have the outcome be the way that they wanted it to be, right? So I like to use the analogy of like playing sport. And we had Paul in here, Catherine's husband, the other day, so we were talking about rugby, but it could be any sport. Like, what sport? What do you watch? Soccer. Yeah, I'm sure all three of you guys watch soccer. So imagine, what's your favorite team? Barcelona. So you're watching Barcelona. And imagine on one hand, it's like you're sitting there and you're watching them. Who's Barcelona's rival? Who do they play? Real Madrid?
Yeah.
All right, they're playing Real Madrid, and they're just having this crazy game, like back and forth, high stakes. Get to the ends, it's tied. They go to the penalty kick, and they lose, and then you're just like thrilled. You're just so happy, and it did not matter who won the game. You're just like, that was a great game. And actually in Japan, the best outcome for a game can be a tie. This is what Sifu Brown says. I don't know if it's true, but I like the concept. The best outcome is a tie because it means the two best teams played their absolute best. And that's so foreign to the way that we look at it, right? Like in America, we want our team to stomp the other team. We want this team to die. We want us to just be victorious. Imagine if you take it a step further. You're on the team, and you play your heart out, and you lose. Can you imagine doing that and being just as happy and being just as satisfied with the outcome of the game as if you had won? It's really, it makes no difference, right? And this is something that we see in practice all the time. In practice, let's say that you're sparring with somebody, and you're moving, and you strike, and you land the strike. What happens? How do you feel? You feel great. Yeah, your ego's pumped up. You're like, yeah, that's right. That's right, I punched you in the face. And then the other happens. You're moving around, and you get punched. How do you feel? Not great. You're like, I suck at sparring. What's wrong with me? What we want is, we want the same reaction, the same response, the same feeling to happen whether we win or lose, victory or defeat, we get punched or we punched, we move out of the way perfectly or we get hit, or we land the strike or our partner moves. It should not actually matter for us, because that reaction that we have is the ego being attached to an outcome. And if you look at how that would affect your performance, if I'm sparring and I land the strike and I get happy and I start thinking about how great I am, well, I'm not in the moment any longer. And then they can hit me. Or they hit me, and then I'm thinking about in the past how I just got hit and how bad I am at sparring. They're going to hit me again. So it is really an exercise in being in the moment. That's what we're talking about. Striving without striving is really on one level being completely present, being unattached, and it's not this, right? It's this. It's you're going along, and whatever happens, you're still at this level. It doesn't mean that you can't experience happiness and excitement and all that, but it means that if you become attached to a certain outcome, you're going to have attachment to a certain feeling, then that takes you out of the moment. And that is going to necessarily impact the way that you are negatively. Whether it was the ego gets stroked and you get a big head, or your ego gets pounded and you feel terrible about what just happened. Either one of those are bad in this instance, what we're talking about. So you'll see plenty of opportunities to practice this outside of class, right? You're at work and you get the promotion and you feel great, or you're at work and you've been working really hard and you don't get the promotion and you feel like crap. And so then you say to yourself, I'm going to work that hard and get nothing out of it. I'm not working hard anymore. Is that going to help you? No. So, but we do it all the time. It's like, oh, I didn't get promoted. I got passed over. Screw you. And then you're just going to end up getting fired someday. So the real goal is we just pour ourselves into whatever we do, and you don't care about the outcome. So Sifu Brown used to say, you try your absolute best and you give the results, you give the outcome to God. It's not for you, right? So the same thing when we meditate. This is so hard, because it's hard enough to meditate as it is. But imagine that you sit to meditate and you just have a wonderful meditation. You sit totally still. You're like a rock. You get really deep. You feel at the end of the meditation like I just did it. I sat for an hour straight, the longest I've ever meditated. It was an awesome meditation. I'm awesome. I'm great. I did that. That's attachment to the outcome, and it's all false. And could go the other way. I sit to meditate and I have a terrible meditation. And I moved. It was terrible. Like, I wasn't deep at all. I was just thinking the whole time. I'm more stressed out now after the meditation than when I was meditating, before I was meditating. And all that's going to do is maybe make you think like, well, I just shouldn't meditate anymore. Or you might just get even further stressed out by the act of meditation. You finish meditation, you look back on it, and you think, oh, that was terrible. What's wrong with me? So all of that, again, is taking us out of the moment. What we really want to be able to do is to just sit. When we meditate, we just sit. And you focus as well as you can, and you come back to the breath as often as you can. And you make it like a game with yourself. Like, how quickly can I come back to the breath every time? But it's like when you play a video game, for example, and you're playing and you die, you just come right back to life and you just keep playing, and that's it. If you die and you get pissed off at the game and you throw it out the window, then it's really game over and you're done, right? So we want meditation to be like that. When you sit and meditate, and in this moment you're not focused on the breath, or in this moment your mind wanders, or in this moment you have an itch and you move or whatever, you just come right back to it. Come back to present. And as long as you consistently sit, you just come back to, I'm sitting. That's it. It doesn't really matter what the outcome was with your previous meditations. It doesn't matter. It has no impact on you. All that matters is right now, I'm just striving in this meditation. The outcome, the result, doesn't matter. So if you can sit that way, You can be totally present. You can be completely in the moment. There is no like, I'm not meditating right, or I'm doing this really well. It'll happen the other way. I had this meditation about a year or two after I started meditating, maybe 3 years after I started. And I had this amazing sensation. I felt like it was an out-of-body experience. I felt like my head like rose up out of my body, and I felt like if I were to open my eyes, I'd look down and see the dojo from like the ceiling. And my experience of it was like, I'm pretty sure I'm close to being enlightened. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm the best meditator that ever was. And so I asked Sifu Brown, my teacher, I said, Sifu, this was my experience. I was sitting and meditating, and I felt like out of body, and my head was floating. What does that mean? And he says, keep going. Keep going. And it was exactly the answer that I needed. Because if he says, ooh, that was great, that means that you're really doing something. Well, what happened was the next time I sat, I started like looking for that experience. And, I found myself getting disappointed, like, how come I'm not floating anymore? And that does not help your meditation. And so you can imagine if he had said, oh, that's great, that means that you're really getting somewhere, that would have screwed me, completely ruined my meditation practice, because I would have been striving with needing that outcome with meditation. There is no outcome that you can be seeking with meditation. All you can do is sit. And some of you guys know the story. It turned out I had the same experience a couple months later, and I actually opened my eyes this time, and I realized that I was like staring at the ground from sitting down, and I think I was like sleeping, or I had not enough oxygen going to my brain. It was like I was getting high off of no blood flow to my brain. And so I just straightened up, and it didn't happen to me again. And it's not to say that if you have an experience like that it's not real. It might be something that's good. But here's how you know that it's not the kind of experience that you want in meditation. Is if you experience something like that, and then you start thinking about it, and you're like, this is amazing. Wow, I can't believe this is happening. And if you're still having it, that means that it's not right. Because when you have the thought and it takes you out of that experience, that it should be done. But it doesn't happen if you've got a mild high from lack of oxygen. So when you sit tonight, let's work on this. Let's just work simply on striving without striving. You sit and you breathe, and that's literally all that you're doing. You're not looking for a certain outcome. You're not looking for, sit still, obviously, but don't beat yourself up if you don't. Don't beat yourself up if you start to think. Just come right back to that posture. And nothing else actually matters. And then at the end of the meditation, you can look at it and say to yourself, well, I sat. That was meditation. I'll do it again tomorrow, or I'll do it again later tonight. And that's all that you're looking for. If you have to have some kind of a positive result, then you're barking up the wrong tree. Because you will have many meditations, I will tell you from my personal experience, so many countless meditations where you get nothing out of it, where you feel like I just did not accomplish anything. And if you can only meditate on an ongoing basis because of something that you receive from it, it won't work, it won't last. So, sit comfortably.